We were heading back to our base when we stumbled across a small town. All of the houses here were destroyed, and the place was completely... To our surprise, a player with a I had no clue what this guy's deal was, but if he was actually serious about fighting us, something was off. Even the best... This guy wasn't any ordinary player. He was a hacker. A hacker is a player who modifies Minecraft's game code to cheat, allowing themselves to fly. The hacker was way too fast for us to see where he had gone, and by using the cover of the town, he could attack us from practically anywhere, which meant that there was only one thing we could do: destroy it all.
Okay.
And with the town completely gone, there was nowhere for the hacker to hide, forcing us to stay submerged. And although this wasn't a big deal to me or Leo, because of this, Leo took off his own helmet, giving it to Newfleet. But no matter who had the helmet, one thing was right in front of us was an ocean monument. We could build another portal inside of the ocean monument and then seal ourselves inside. If it was what we thought it was, then we were in a lot of trouble. Everything had been destroyed. Newfleet, who was Leo's right-hand man, and Leo himself, who was the leader of this place. We continued exploring the base. We found that 2 players had also managed to survive. Hacker had shown up here, killing everyone. See, creepers have 10 hearts of health. Seguado's unenchanted bow, when fully charged, can only do up to 6 hearts of damage. No ordinary player should have been able to kill either of those creepers with 1 bow shot. But even though we had just outsmarted the hacker, we were now stuck inside of this base with him. And knowing that we couldn't run or hide, this way, as long as we watched each other's backs, the hacker could float out a massive underground tunnel network, and we were now trapped inside of it with no escape. But it was clear. No matter how hard we tried to get out, we were no match for the hacker's abilities. Leo had a designated location where, if they lost contact, they would both meet up. So, after about half an hour of traveling, we eventually arrived there, which is when Newfleet brought up an interesting point. Newfleet was right. We could technically report the hacker and get them banned, but I had a suspicion that the hacker had been hired by the director, killed my best friend. Sorts of different assassins, with each, and to our absolute surprise, Leo had somehow made it out. And having no idea as to how Leo had even gotten out of that situation, the 4 of us continued expanding the base. Since True Original, the hacker, was definitely trying to find work, while Newfleet and Darapchu continued designing, Leo went this way. Even with an X-ray hack, our base would just look like a normal lava pool. There was no way we'd be able to do it through brute force. We would need some sort of trap. So, Leo headed to the explosive shop, and in the meantime, Newfleet and I headed to the main red. But there was just one small problem. No matter how hard we tried to convince the shopkeeper to give us these items, he wouldn't budge. But just as we were about to give up, Leo entered the store. Within literally a minute of Leo arriving, the shopkeeper had gathered all the items we needed. Somehow, the hacker had found us. Our only option was to try and secretly leave the area without him realizing. So, we made a break for it. And to our absolute surprise, right in front of us was a massive farm. Guys, even though we were hiding in a patch of flowers, he still kept circling above us. If we strategically used the different flower patches to take cover, we should have paid attention to the signs on the outer wall before we entered. Now that our cover was blown, there was only one thing we could do: fight. I knew exactly what this was, since we had no idea where even if we could tell them apart, they were moving way too fast for us to even do anything. Usually, cobwebs can slow down the movement speed of any normal. With cobwebs, we were only temporarily holding True Original up. You see, even if we were to use swords or bows, we would never be able to deal enough damage to kill True the entire day. So, we decided to wait until the morning to build the trap. And since players don't log out on this server because it's nearly impossible to get back in with how many people are online, and 9 hours later, after we were all this is the orbital strike cannon. It's the same machine that we used to completely destroy the town when we first met the hacker. What's cool about this weapon is that you can fully customize the explosion that it fires. The explosion can be ring-shaped, square-shaped, or can even concentrate all of the TNT into an extremely powerful blast that can one-shot any player. However, the main issue with the cannon is that it's obvious when someone sets it off. So, if we wanted to use this cannon to actually kill True Original, we eventually constructed a mirror receiver. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics of this machine, but it's basically a wireless remote that's undetectable. By using some complicated technology, it tracks exactly where you're looking, and if you simply look in a certain direction, you can send a wireless signal from 1,000, 10,000, even millions of blocks away. This meant that if we connected it to the orbital strike cannon, we could set off the cannon without being detected from anywhere in the world. All Newfly had to do now was set a looking direction for the machine. If he ever looked at them from now on, the cannon would go off. And now that our method of killing True was ready, we would just need to actually use it to kill him. So, the four of us headed to a remote location, knowing that he would eventually find us. Basically nothing we could do until True showed up. So, without much of a choice, we waited. And waited. To wait for the perfect opportunity, which meant that for now, we would have to fight him. Even though cobwebs no longer worked, this was all part. You see, as soon as we had arrived here, we had set up a trap at the end of a nearby cave. By luring True into it and then sealing him in there, we could then fire the orbital cannon, killing him in one shot.
Why is it a dead end? What the?
Newfly! I had somehow swapped places with True, and I was now stuck inside of a box with the orbital cannons. Unless we came up with something fast, we were all going to die here, which is when I realized something. Although the orbital cannon can only be fired once before it needs to be recharged, if we played it off right, we could completely bluff and pretend like we had. And while Daraptu and Leo headed to bed for the next 6 hours, we were in the base, because True had somehow managed to find us. And since Leo and Daraptu were asleep underground, making them completely vulnerable, and without any of my items, there was nothing I had been completely outplayed. Now, I was falling to my death with See, as soon as True had teleported me into the air, Newfly had quickly tamed a horse and then flown directly under me, saving my life. And because of this, we would have no choice but to kill him. So, Newfly and actual possibility that this player wasn't pre-recorded voice lines to trick us into believing that he was our teammate, the TNT. And as I fell with Newfly and to set off this trap, it had to be now. Yes, there was something I had to say. Everything was all part of the plan. You see, all of the TNT we had planted underground was never meant to kill True. Because in reality, we had been charging the orbital strike cannon to fire a blast so powerful that it could destroy the entire base and kill anybody who was standing in the general area. The form we had built was now acting as a shield that would protect us from the explosion, and all I had to do now was fire the cannon. But that's when I realized I couldn't set off the cannon.
I wish you the best of luck.
I'll see you guys.
Oh my god!
Killed Newfly because he stopped serving his purpose. Leo and Daraptu, soon enough, I won't need you two either.
Yo, what do you want from us, bro?
You know what I want, Parrot. You've known since the beginning.